are thrilled to have another returning guest with us. If you were listening and watching last season, you might remember Bannie from joining us. Bannie is here again by herself this time. Last time you were here with your cousin Katie.
Yeah, I feel kind of alone this time.
That's okay. Well, you've got the two of us and the dog.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, the podcast dog. Yeah.
Yes. We have a mascot now. Her name is Paisley, so the P works. I'm totally okay with your dog's
that's
name.
true.
I'm very proud.
Well,
Yeah.
I did it for this reason.
I know you
only.
did.
Paisley.
Yeah.
So we invited Bannie to talk about breastfeeding, and maybe not in the way that you might expect.
It's true, actually. Last time Bannie was on, we found out that you do some amazing things with your breast milk.
Well, thank you. I was an overproducer for all three of my children, and had a lot of milk to spare. And I exclusively pumped, which means that I didn't nurse. I would pump and feed. So yes, I had tons and tons of milk, and apparently there's lots of things you can do with that milk.
Instead of just throwing it out, which a lot of people I think would do, right? What am I going to do with this now?
Right.
So,
Or, make jewelry. And there's other, there are things that people do with milk. But what you did was donate it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that whole process and what you were doing.
For sure. So there's a few different things you can do. For my first child, I didn't know about donation at all. So I stocked my freezer full and then pumped until I was done. And then she had that, and then also frozen milk. And then for my second baby, I started learning more about this. And I knew that there was this organization out west that would collect breast milk, and then they would pasteurize it, and it would be available for NICU babies. But we didn't have any depots in Moncton, and so I just thought that wasn't an option. But I sort of started looking into other things, and there's actually like breast milk sharing groups and stuff. So if you go on Facebook, there's a couple groups where you can find where people will go on and say that they have milk available, and then they'll kind of be paired with donor families and things like that. So I did that with my second child, and I found a family in Nova Scotia that was in need of donor milk, and so I just kept shipping them milk and did that for close to a year. And ended up donating over 100 liters to them.
Oh my goodness.
And yes, and then so this time around, when I was starting the donor process again, because I had a big oversupply, I was talking to one of the lactation consultants at the hospital, and they actually gave me the information about the organization at West, which is called Northern Star Mothers Milk Bank. So they were telling me about it, and I said, yes, I know about it, but I know we don't have any depots. And they're like, actually, they have it set up that you can ship out there, and then they cover all the costs of shipping.
Wow.
Basically, the shipper comes and picks up everything at your place, and then off it goes. And so I was like, well, that's fantastic. So I contacted them, and there is kind of like a lengthy intake process where you have to fill out a big questionnaire. They ask a lot about you because they do need to know that you're cleared for various diseases, no drugs and alcohol, stuff like that. They need to know what medications you're on, if you're on any. And so there is kind of inclusion, exclusion type stuff. You have to have a workup done by your doctor. You have to have blood tests that you'll submit to them as well. But anyway, so if you're willing to do all of that, it's for a really fantastic cause. So they'll take all of that, and eventually if you're okay to donate, you can start shipping out west. There's some work involved because when you collect and do everything, you have to write down your donor number. You have to collect everything in a really sterilized certain manner because they have to make sure that everything is okay. You're working with a really sensitive population when you're donating to NICU babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be really careful with that. But then they take it all and they pasteurize it, and it gets shipped off to hospitals where it's used for babies in need.
Wow.
So it's very cool.
What an incredible thing, eh?
It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that we have that system in place now, that this can happen. Because I've been that parent in the NICU, and I was lucky that I was also an overproducer, which I didn't really know was a word.
Yeah.
I was just that mom that the nurses laughed at because I would come in with bags of milk from home.
Wow.
And I always just attributed to the fact that I'd barely finished breastfeeding our daughter when our boys were born. So I just I never really, it didn't really kind of slow down a whole lot production wise. And so I knew that we were very lucky because I knew a lot of people who couldn't breastfeed and who couldn't, especially when your babies are born early, your body hasn't finished going through all the cycles that it's supposed to go through. It's a big stressor. Mm-hmm. And to think that there's a system out there that looks at pasteurization and delivery and all of that is just absolutely incredible.
So much more information available now, knowing that babies that are born early they just respond so much better to breast milk. They don't have their systems are developed enough that things with like formula are harder on them. So breast milk is just that much easier for them to digest, and it's a lot better for them if it's available and if they can have it.
Well, and a little bit goes such a long way, right? Like I think
hardly nothing at that age,
it's
right?
drops, and yet those drops are like that's all they need.
Liquid gold, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how did you decide? First off, how much? Do you know what I mean? Like you need to know how much to have for your own children.
For sure.
But did they have to be a donor? Do you have to provide a certain amount per month, kind of thing?
If you're shipping, they require that it's a 5-liter minimum to ship, just because of how it's worth it for the shipper to come and stuff. But when there's depots, like I think there's a depot in Halifax. I think there's also one in St. John.
Oh wow!
So if that's the case, you can just drop off whatever you want at your convenience, and they'll take whatever. But just if for shipping, they do require 5-liter minimum. I used to ship like 20 liters at a time.
You really were an overproducer. Wow.
Yeah. And for me, basically what I would do is, so I knew how much my baby was eating, and so I would kind of get their bottles ready for the day. And then by the time I started donating, I just made sure that I had like a whole I have deep freezers, so I would
milk freezers.
Basically. So I fill my deep freeze and be like, this is for when I'm done.
Yeah.
And then anything extra off of that was getting shipped out or donated. So I think in the end I donated about 80 liters to the milk bank, and then but in total, because I had like local donors and stuff on the go as well, but the same thing, was about 125. So over like my last two pregnancies, it was about 250 liters in total that I donated.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I'm trying to even visualize like 250 liters. That's a massive amount of liquid.
Yes, a massive amount. And then when you are shipping it, does it go frozen or?
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, because I was trying to figure out like what kind of containers I'm going to ship in, and like when you buy the insulated containers, they can actually be quite expensive. Mm-hmm. And one of the employees at the milk bank, she's like, well, sometimes people from out east actually buy insulated lobster containers and ship them. And I was like, well, I'm from Shediac, the lobster Canada of the world. So.
Yeah, I got this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so sure, you go down there and you can buy a lobster container for like $10, and it holds a lot of milk.
A lot of milk.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. So then, on top of that, if you are producing all this milk and shipping all of this milk, and then you've also got your local donors, because I remember with freezing the milk that like you cannot refreeze it. Once it's thawed, baby must drink the milk, right?
24 hours or something like
okay,
that.
so you need to make sure that lobster container stays frozen, right? Yeah.
And so the same thing, you can buy ice packs if it's jam-packed really tight, and then everything's like sealed, and
right.
then if you have any space, you just kind of put like ice packs. I would buy the ones where you'd like soak in water, freeze them, and then they can go in.
Okay.
Like disposable type ones.
Yeah.
And and then you just have it all sealed really. So like I would ship it out, and the employees would laugh. They'd be like, we'd never seen such a container like Tetris.
Yeah.
Milk and ice packs, and she's always said everything came just like.
Just perfect.
And they ship it priority overnight.
Of course. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That was my thought. Like, it's obviously going to get on a plane and go right over. But yeah, sometimes things thaw, and then that's, you got to cry over that because you spill breast milk and look out. Yeah.
I don't matter, like, even as an overproducer and having tons of it, when, like, if I saw, like, drop spill, I'd be like...
Yeah. Or if the baby doesn't finish the bottle.
Yeah.
You're
finishing this. Yeah.
Don't you understand?
Yeah, this is a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that work, like, I can, like, remember... I felt like a cow, right? I had, like the double strap, one going on. And I can't imagine if you exclusively pumped that like your husband must be a wonderful human to keep 3 children entertained while you're pumping.
Well, and you just kind of get into the system.
Yeah.
Of, same thing. So like I would have all my pump stuff in the family room, and the kids would be playing.
Yeah.
And be sitting there pumping.
Yeah.
That
Noise.
noise.
Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta go pump. And
Yeah.
And, Mom, is it time to pump? Sure is.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate because as an overproducer, I could cut down on pumps really early on. I think earlier on than most people. So by a couple months postpartum, I could only had to pump 4 times a day.
Wow.
Now a lot of times I would have to pump for 45 minutes or an hour because there is a larger quantity
Right.
to pump off. But at least it wasn't as much as I think like most people have to pump every 2 to 3 hours around the clock.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
So I could get off of that pretty quickly.
Waking up in the night to pump and yeah.
So I would do that right at the beginning, but I could wean away from that pretty
Well, in the beginning you're up with your baby anyway.
Exactly.
So
Well, that's
yeah.
it. I try to. I kind of always just kind of follow my baby's.
Yeah.
step until
Well, and that's when you would be getting the best milk anyway, right? Like your body knows what the baby wants. So
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah.
Did you have to do a lot of that kind of inventory? Did you take a lot of notes as to like on the milk bags, like when it was? Like, did that factor in terms of what you sent away?
So definitely, when you ship milk away, you had to freeze it within a day of pumping it, so it had to be frozen within 24 hours of pumping. Whereas with my own kids' milk, I could freeze 2 to 3 days after pumping it, and it wouldn't really matter. So anything that I knew that I was storing and shipping for them, I would make sure it was done within 24 hours. I would have to label all the bags, the date, my donor number. Time pump, things like that. So, and then I would just kind of keep it like in a separate area of the freezer until I had enough of it to ship out. So, yeah.
And did they factor in like how far postpartum you were when you were pumping?
Yes,
in
actually.
terms of
So they actually won't allow you to donate after a year postpartum. So, yeah. So I think I started probably when the baby was about a month old that I was able to have enough stored in my freezer and then start shipping, and then had to finish at a year.
Okay. And why is that?
They say it has something to do with the macro and micronutrients that just start changing as
At a year, your baby doesn't need as much.
Well, and it would be different for the composition of premature babies,
True.
right?
Yes.
So your baby requires something different than a preemie, and maybe at that point it's just too different.
Okay.
right?
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
you could
Yeah.
be donating to a 1-year-old at that point, maybe, but not.
exactly.
It wouldn't
I
be the
could
same
do
for
Right.
their
local
population.
donations, but
Yeah.
So speaking of your local donations, do you know the people, like the one in Nova Scotia? Have they kept you updated on the baby you were donating to, things like that?
When I was donating, they did, and we kept in touch for a little bit after, but now that's been a few years. So
Yeah.
I haven't heard from her for a while. A few others have been friends and stuff, so I know, I keep in touch with them because I'm friends with them.
Right.
I hear from them often. And then other people just also knowing what I do. So one was like a family friend's granddaughter that I was donating to, so I kind of see her on Facebook and stuff. And so it's cool. I do enjoy kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would.
Yes.
It's like you're an organ donor in a way, right?
Well,
so you're happy to see what you've done.
Yeah, and
grow.
I love
Yeah.
that. Well, so we went to Florida this past spring, and so I was pumping then, and I knew that I would have oversupply when I was there. And same thing, I didn't want to be throwing it down the drain. I wasn't going to be freezing it and bringing it back home with me. So so one of the Facebook groups you can go on. There's Eats on Feeds is one, and then Human Milk for Human Babies is another one, and they all have different like chapters in different areas worldwide. So before I was using like our New Brunswick chapter and the Nova Scotia chapter, and so there was obviously this Orlando, Florida chapter that I used, and so I went on there and said like, I'm going to be in Florida. I'm not going to be freezing, but if someone wants to come for like regular pickups, I'll send them home with fresh milk, and they can freeze or feed it to the baby, do whatever they want. And so I met up with a woman there, and I donated to her the entire time, and I just adored her. And you make really, you form really nice bonds with these people. It was my daughter's birthday when I was there. She brought her a birthday present and a birthday cake. It was like it just makes you feel so good that you're doing this. These people appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so. It was pretty awesome, and and so I have her on Facebook. I keep in touch with her. I love seeing her baby grow. He's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Well, and that's the thing. These people, they need to form a bond with you because they're trusting you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's trust that, for sure that, you have to know that you're getting good milk, that these people are taking care of themselves, that they're donating, that they're doing the right thing when they're storing and keeping their milk. So, yeah, for sure it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is this something that you end up talking to people a lot about now? Like, is it becoming more common knowledge, certainly around your circle, I would imagine, but
starting to, yes, definitely around my circle, they
everyone knows.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows because we're telling them.
Even like I would kind of post on Facebook a little bit, like when I would ship out a donation, and a part of me was like feeling sort of weird about it because it's like, when you're donating or doing something, like I'm doing it because I want to and it feels nice, and not necessarily because I want.
You want the attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think it's one of those things that people don't know a lot about it. They don't know that they can do this. They don't know it's an option, and it's wonderful if you have extra breast milk. You can really help somebody. You can really help a family that needs it. And so I kind of did it for that idea, is that like if people don't know that these resources are available or that these organizations exist, that they can reach out and ask questions and figure out how to do it. And I did. I had some private messages like, oh, my friend has this extra milk they want to donate, or they're starting to do this. Like, so I kind of point them in the right direction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic, and we obviously need someone in the Moncton area to be an advocate for it, right? Because if they have a drop-off in St. John and one in Halifax, then we should definitely have one too.
It would be really great.
Yeah.
And I think they were in
We have
discussion
2
about
hospitals.
Yeah,
I think
right?
we could probably make this happen.
Yeah, we got 2 birthing units, so
And I think it's in the works, but I don't know like how.
Maybe
what they've
like
got to go through
If it's
to,
just, like discussing, or
Yeah.
if they're really actively making it happen. But
Right.
I think that's hopefully on the radar.
that would be amazing. But then it's like having the ability to pasteurize it if they need to pasteurize it.
I still think everything gets collected and shipped out
Okay.
west. It just
Okay.
makes it that you're taking.
You don't have to do the shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's only a few places in Canada that are set up to do the pasteurization.
Right.
I think there's a setup in Toronto now as well.
Okay.
You're right about that.
Yes. I think when we spoke with Dr. Rebecca,
Okay.
I believe,
Yes.
she talked about one in Toronto.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up for everyone. I'll put it in the notes. Guys.
We'll find out full
Yes.
information on that.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a fabulous thing, and I know a lot of us I definitely didn't overproduce, but I had enough because I had chunky monkey babies. But but I couldn't have had enough to donate for sure. But there are a lot of women that maybe don't even realize that they have enough to donate.
For sure. Well, and a lot of people don't respond to the pump very well. So even if you have lots when you're nursing and your babies are thriving and doing great, it's definitely a different, like when you hook the pump up, some of them just get drops because they just don't respond to the pump well at all. And
And then some of us,
yes,
we were born to be cows. Apparently, and the whoosh, whoosh noise just sets everything off.
well, it's true. Like I hear that now. I'm like,
Yeah. I can hear it in my head right now. I'm like, it's been, 6 years?
Yeah.
I had one of my donor families lovingly call me Bovine Bonnie.
Oh, that's good.
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah. That's a good thing. It's a good
But
thing.
it's true. Like, I had no idea that it was even a thing that you could do
Exactly.
8 years ago when I maybe would have been a good candidate for it. And I remember, 8 years ago with our first daughter, I had lots, and I did a fair amount of pumping. And then when our boys were born, that was the first time I really heard about someone else looking for breast milk. They were looking for a donor because they weren't producing enough. And I was like, this is even a thing?
Right. Yeah.
And then, like, not only is it a thing that people donate, but, like, yes, there are processes in place, and you can do this very safely.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. And that was only 6 years ago. And I would like to think I'm a fairly knowledgeable person about some things.
Well, it's kind of your job to know about things like that.
Yeah. But I think that's how much it's changed just in the past couple of years, which is fantastic.
So my first child is 5 now, and like I said, wasn't even on my radar, didn't know it existed. And then I had our second a year and a half later, and that's when I started to learn about it and was able to donate it. And like you said, 5 years have gone by, and like it's finally, I think, picking up, and people are learning a lot more. And like, and the lactation consultant was actually the one who gave me like, oh no, you can ship. Here's your pamphlet.
Here's your card.
Yes.
Take
Go help
my
others.
milk. Off you go. Yeah. Don't waste it. Please
Exactly,
don't
no.
waste it. Please don't waste it.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that process? Like, if someone's listening now and is like, hey, hey, I'm producing lots. Maybe I can do this. Or someone who's pregnant who, ends up in that situation.
For sure.
What are some of the steps they should go through?
So if they would like to, potentially ship out west and work with the milk bag out west, it's Northern Star Mother's Milk Bag. You just can search it online, and they have a website. And then on the website, you just contact them. They're going to set up an interview to give you a call, and you'll do your kind of intake interview. And then if everything goes okay there, they'll start sending you forms. So you've got to fill out all your forms. And like I said, you'll have, you go to your doctor, you'll have your blood work and stuff like that. And then if everything clears that, then they'll talk you through the process about how you donate and, how you store and things like that. If that doesn't interest you, then like I said, local donations are an option. And then there's the Facebook groups. There's Human Milk for Human Babies. Again, you just search it on Facebook. You find your local, New Brunswick is the...
I was going to say, it's a group for all of New Brunswick for that one?
Yeah. And even so, what I also learned was that you don't even have to have a donor like right in your own city. Obviously, that's the easiest.
Yeah,
to do
for sure.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. But I found somebody in Nova Scotia, and I would just ship it on the bus. So I would go grab those big cooler bags from Costco. And at that time, I didn't know about the
lobster.
Now, obviously, that's what I would use.
Yeah.
But, the cooler bags from Costco were $5 or something, and I would stuff it full of milk, and I'd go down to the bus station and ship it collect, and it would be there a few hours later, and she'd pick it up, and so everything was done. And normally, obviously when you donate, there's you're not getting any money or anything like that, but typically people will buy you milk bags or buy you
supplies.
Supplies, exactly, because those are also expensive.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
It adds up really fast. So everything from the milk bank is covered. So they do reimburse you for shipping. They reimburse you for your milk bags. If you have to buy like frozen packs, things like that. So any expenses that you have, while donating, they cover. And like I said, and often your donor families will kind of do the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to wrap up, but I have one question for moms that are about to have babies, and this is a big question. What's your favorite kind of pump? Because there's some good ones out there, and some not so good ones.
I use the Medela Freestyle one.
That's what I had
because
too.
it's a portable one, and when
your hands free.
Exactly. When you're excessively pumping, you pump everywhere. So you pump in your car, you pump at parties, you pump in the bathroom. So one that can just kind of go with me, and I can do that. So I set up well with that. I know a lot of people in the U.S. like Spectra. They can get it very easily there. We don't have access, I don't think, as easily in Canada.
Okay.
But Medela Freestyle, that was my go-to.
Okay.
It lasted a long time.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Awesome. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you so much, Bonnie. This has been fascinating.
Yeah, and if you have a fourth child, then hit this girl up.
That's right.
That's it for today's Pickle Planet podcast. Thanks for listening and watching. And don't forget to give us a review if you'd like to, wherever you're listening to this podcast.